I'm going to start this webinar now. Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Nora Perella, and I'm with the California Department of Education. Next slide, please. We appreciate your time and your interest in Assembly Bill 560, or AB 560. A few housekeeping items before we get started. This webinar will be recorded and will be posted to the CDE website. While video, audio, and chat are not enabled for participants, the Q&A function is available, although participants are able to chat with the hosts. Though the intent of this webinar is informal, time permitting, we may answer limited questions at the end. Closed captioning is also available, although individual participants may need to enable it for it to appear at the bottom of the screen. Oh, sorry, Daniel, can you go back one? Today's webinar is informational in nature. Our goals are to provide an overview of AB 560 and its statutory requirements, explain the California Department of Education's or CDE's role and responsibilities under the bill, share CDE's process to gather information and input from the field, explain how external partners can participate in upcoming consultation opportunities. And this webinar is not a decision-making meeting. No recommendations have been drafted at this time. We are at the very beginning of this process. AB 560 was authored by Assemblymember Addis and made two education code changes. The first amended Section 56362, which added subsection G, which states local educational agencies shall take all reasonable steps to distribute the workload associated with initial assessments across all resource specialists employed by the local educational agency in an equal manner, unless otherwise collectively bargained. This section went into effect when the bill was signed and chaptered. Additionally, this language does not affect or add to the caseload cap of 28 pupils. The second, more significant change was the addition of Education Code Section 56364.3, which focuses on adult-to-pupil staffing ratios in special education classes for pupils with disabilities ages 3 through 22. The bill added this education code and directs the State Superintendent of Public Instruction to develop and post recommended maximum adult-to-pupil staffing ratios for certain special classes authorized under Section 56364.2. Under AB 560, the superintendent is required to do two things. Subsection A, on or before July 1st, 2027, recommend a maximum adult-to-pupil staffing ratio for special classes and post those recommendations on the CDE website. Subsection C states on or before April 1st, 2027, report those recommendations to the appropriate policy and fiscal committees of the legislature and the State Board of Education. To develop these recommendations, the law requires consultation, though not the convening of a formal work group. It is important to emphasize that AB 560 does not immediately set or mandate staffing ratios, does not supersede local bargaining agreements, does not change existing IEP requirements, nor does it create a compliance standard for LEAs. Instead, the bill requires the development of recommendations informed by broad consultation and consideration of multiple factors, all of which are prescribed in the bill, and we'll go over those in the next slide. In addition to the two deadlines, AB 560 specifies the list of individuals that CDE must consult in the making of the recommendations. Those include the majority of those consulted must be credentialed education specialists currently teaching in special class settings, administrators and chief business officials serving at school sites, school districts, county offices of education, and special education local plan areas or SELPAs. Paraprofessionals serving in special class settings, parents of pupils with exceptional needs who are served in special classes, as well as researchers and representatives with expertise in inclusive practices, as well as advocates focused on equity and disability rights. These individuals must also represent the state's geographic diversity, including but not limited to rural, urban, and high-need regions. In addition to the list of individuals, AB 560 also states factors that must be considered when developing staffing ratio recommendations. These considerations include the varying needs of pupils, including pupils with mild to moderate support needs and pupils with extensive support needs, the varying needs of pupils by age, types of school settings, such as preschool, elementary, secondary, and non-public schools, existing practices among LEAs across California, other states' adult-to-pupil ratios for special classes, other constraints, including but not limited to workforce and facility needs, and conditions in small and rural local educational agencies. The impact on the education of pupils with disabilities in the least restrictive environment as required by IDEA, and how staffing ratios may enhance student outcomes and support needed for general education and special education educators for the successful implementation of inclusive practices. These considerations make clear that the work is complex and must be informed by real-world experience and data from across the state. This informational webinar kicks off CDE's process for public engagement and participation. Since AB 560 does not require a formal work group, CDE's approach will focus on the following. First, information gathering. By reaching out directly to SELPA, special education administrators of county offices, and local labor unions to gather what the current adult-to-pupil ratios are in the various LEAs across the state, specifically rural, urban, and high-need areas. Directly communicating with various parent organizations, family empowerment centers, and institutes of higher education, as well as California-based technical assistance providers. Leveraging those organizations to assist in soliciting feedback and participation to ensure that the CDE is consulting all the individuals listed in AB 560, like the ones on the previous slide. The CDE will also utilize surveys to effectively collect input. To perform an analysis of current practices, the CDE will reach out to national technical assistance providers as well as the National Association of Special Education state directors to survey if there are adult-to-pupil ratios or recommendations in other states, and if so, what those ratios are. The CDE will analyze what the current practices are within the state as well as nationally and organize and evaluate the feedback provided as part of our public engagement efforts. CDE will draft recommendations based on statutory considerations after the initial information gathering and analysis. The CDE will draft adult-to-pupil ratios using the survey responses, which will also provide rationale behind the recommendations. We'll conclude with soliciting feedback before finalizing recommendations. The CDE will host a series of small virtual focus groups to review the draft recommendations with the various interest groups in order to collect feedback on those draft recommendations. After receiving comments and feedback from the educational partners, the CDE will begin drafting final recommendations and, if necessary, may host a public comment webinar and listening session. Lastly, there are several ways to participate. When you registered for this webinar, you were asked if you would like to be added to the AB 560 listserv. If you indicated yes, we will add you. That will be one of the best ways to receive ongoing communication, stay up to date on requests for feedback, or receive various resources. The link to join the listserv is displayed on this slide. To join, you must send a blank email to that email address. In addition, we will be launching a web page on the CDE website specifically dedicated to AB 560. Once that page is live, the recording of this webinar will also be posted there, as well as frequent updates on how to participate, instructions on how to provide feedback, the link to join the listserv, as well as contact information if you have questions for CDE. We want to hear from as many voices as possible, so please share this opportunity with colleagues, parents, and community partners who may be interested. Participation does not require a long-term commitment, and providing your information simply ensures that you receive future communications about this work. In closing, we want to reiterate that AB 560 is about listening, learning, and developing thoughtful recommendations, not imposing immediate changes. We appreciate the expertise and perspectives of the field and look forward to working collaboratively over the next year. The webinar recording will be sent out, along with a PDF of the slides, to the listserv in the coming week. If you have any questions after the webinar, the email for the policy unit is displayed on this slide and is sedpolicy@cde.ca.gov. Thank you again for your partnership and continued participation. And at this time, I'm going to see if we have any questions in the Q&A. Yes. Like I just said, we'll send out a copy of the slides to the listserv within the next week. There also should be a resource tab, or in the chat, there may be some links. We included a link to the bill text itself, um, as well as the email for the policy unit. Just checking a few questions. There are some questions coming in. We are also looking to post an FAQ on that webpage once it's live. So again, we will send that link out to the listserv once that is up. And many of those questions may be answered there as well. Also see that it looks like we have a few raised hands. If you have a question, please use the Q&A. If not, the chat function also will send a chat to the hosts. Okay. Um, there are additional questions coming in. I do think a lot of those questions will be, the answers to those will be developed and posted onto the webpage. We are writing down all the questions. We will be capturing the chat as well as the Q&A. Again, this will be recorded and will be posted to our website. And we will send out a copy of the slides and the recording on the listserv within the next week, or once the recording is made available. Thank you, everybody, for your participation. We really appreciate it, and I hope you all have a great day. Thank you.